Welcome to Dive Deeper.
Welcome back to Dive Deeper, Oliver.
Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, so if you hadn't heard, my wife Lindsay had our second little girl back on September 29th. So yeah, I've been away for a month on parental leave, but now I'm back.
Well, a couple of quick announcements. Number one, Fall Retreat is coming up next weekend, November 18th to 20th. So if you want to come, you need to bring in your forms by this Sunday at the latest.
Yeah, so if you come to Middleton Baptist, you can bring your forms Sunday. But if not, you need to ask your parents to drop them off at our offices tomorrow or Friday between 8:30 and noon. That's when the office is open. So if that's absolutely not possible, you can get your parents to email me at lock.oliver@gmail.com to confirm you're coming. Also, you need to bring in your $40 registration fee with your forms or e-transfer it, okay?
It's gonna be so awesome. You should definitely come. All right, well, let's do a warm-up question. If you were stranded on a desert island and you could pick one song to have that you could listen to over and over, what would you pick and why? All right, so Oliver, what stood out to you this week in Acts chapter 6?
Well, I've always loved the story at the start of this chapter. It talks about how there were widows in the church who would be fed every day by the church. So first of all, I think it's so cool how the church was working in such a practical way to meet a need in people's lives.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful picture of the church serving in a practical way. But there was a problem, right? Some widows weren't getting food. Their need was getting overlooked.
Right, so that brings us to the verses that really stood out to me. So this is verses 2 to 4. Could you read that for me?
Sure. Acts chapter 6, verses 2 to 4. They said, "We apostles should spend our time teaching the word of God, not running a food program. And so, brothers, select 7 men who are well respected and are full of the Spirit and wisdom. We will give them this responsibility. Then we apostles can spend our time in prayer and teaching the word."
So when I was making observations about these verses, I think this verse teaches us something about us and how God has gifted us. So I think it's a great example of how every Christian has different gifts, and it's okay for us to serve in different ways.
Okay. Right, so like the apostles were gifted to mainly teach the word of God and to pray, but they still needed some people to give food to the people in need. So they said, let's find people who are gifted in that way, and that will be a meaningful way for them to serve.
Exactly. And now I don't think that the apostles never did any practical stuff. I think that would be a little bit snobbish to be like, well, I'm not picking up any garbage after rally night because that's not my gift. I preach, right? And I'm not saying that I'm an apostle. I'm just, giving an example. But anyway, I think the point in this story is that the task had become so overwhelmingly big that they were never doing the thing that they were supposed to do, their main calling and main gifting.
Right. Okay, so that makes sense. So how should this apply to our lives?
Well, for me, when I ask, how should this change my desires? I think the biggest thing is that it makes me want to really figure out how God has gifted me and to really focus on serving Him in those ways. It also makes me want to help other people discover their gifts and to help them find ways to serve in the ways that they're gifted. And more than that, I hope it also changes my values and all of our values so that we see every gift as valuable, whether it's something people think is really cool or gets more spotlight or whatever.
Okay, nice. Well, maybe let's stop there for a discussion question. What ways has God gifted you, and how can you use that to serve? Also, I wasn't originally scheduled to be on this week, so we don't have a second leader segment tonight, so you have a bit more time to dig into this. Your leaders should have a list of different spiritual gifts mentioned in the Bible with a short description of what they are. Take a look at those and ask what gifts you might have, or maybe you see a certain gift in someone else in your group and you want to encourage them to use it.
All right, so take a bit more time than usual to discuss this question. What ways has God gifted you, and how can you use that to serve?